Now it's on.
All right, we're good.
Call the meeting to order. Notice of this meeting has been published and posted in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and the requirements of the town of Kiowa Island. First item is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Old business. I think probably it makes sense just to move to whether we're going to do our March events or not. And obviously the COVID situation continues to deteriorate. We have a number of events scheduled in March. Is there anyone who thinks we should go ahead with these events?
Well, I would like to talk about the symphony when we get to that.
First on the list.
Okay. First of all, I think David was going to check with Holy Spirit to see if they thought having a partial audience like they do for Mass would work. David, have you?
Yeah, they haven't gotten back to me yet. I asked the question.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer yet. So,
And let's see, last night I was looking at something for the symphony, which was a wine with the maestro with Ken Lamb, and he showed a video of how they get ready for their performances at the Gilliard. And he also talked about their preparations and also about the filming and videoing that they do. And they now have 5 cameras that they operate with symphony staff, and they own these cameras, and they are purchasing 2 more. So that what they do is when they video, they really come up with some great camera angles and so on. And of course, they do the sound as well. However, I don't know how much of that is Gilliard sound, probably a lot of it. But now they've done 2 or 3 concerts at the Gilliard live. So I wanted to ask the council before I talk to Kyle about the possibility of this, if you want me to go forward or not. And the thought about the Holy Spirit is that they do Mass there. And I've talked to some of the people that belong to the church, and they think it's very safe. I guess so far they haven't had problems with how they set up Holy Spirit for these Masses. So if they were to say yes, if a symphony were to say yes, it is $28,000 for their budget. And they were going to do the 4th Symphony of Beethoven. If they can't do this concert, they do have a pretty big revenue loss. And they also, it's a little bit of a chink in their performance schedule as far as their Beethoven series. Now, maybe they would switch and do it at the Gilliard or something and put it into their regular season. I don't know. But I would like to have discussion about this with everybody. I'm willing to pursue it with them, but not if you're completely against it, obviously.
So Becky, to make sure I understand, your proposal is that they would go to Holy Spirit and perform to a small, appropriately sized audience, and it would be streamed and available to everyone as well?
Yes, and I thought I don't know if there would be some way that those who live at Kiowa or in the, our general neighborhood would have it for free, and maybe the symphonies we could charge for other people. I don't know, for $10 or something, but maybe that's not necessary. Maybe it's just a community outreach. Sort of.
Becky, we can't charge at Holy Spirit.
Yeah, right. I mean, whatever. I don't think it's necessary to charge. We obviously have plenty of money in our budget to do this concert.
I just wanted to say a word about the quality of the streaming, and it's just excellent. It's really, really good. Michael Smith was saying that, and John and I have not been back for a concert yet, and we won't for a while. But of course, Michael Smith was there the first night that they performed, and he said he sat at the back of the Gilliard, watched it live, but also on his cell phone. And what an incredible experience it was to have both. It's just fabulous to see, to feel like you're in the orchestra and seeing Ken conduct from that perspective. And then when somebody has a solo, bit, it's on them. It's just excellent what Kyle has done. So if we decided to do that, I just wanted to put in a word for the good quality of that.
I've heard it from Holy Spirit, but
we have talked about this being an expense to us if we go videoing things. Well, in this case, it seems that the symphony already has all this equipment, all this expertise. They know how to do it if they can get the sound right, especially. And so that's a point. Yes, Judy.
Becky, I think they could give us a superior product if we're going to be streaming, if they did it from the Gilliard, rather than try to move their equipment out to Holy Spirit.
But what would the cost of the Gilliard be to them?
Yeah. Not only that, but Gilliard just may not be available.
Right.
I haven't gotten back to me about Holy Spirit, but if you has anyone attended Mass? They're allowing 450 people in that church.
Wow.
One of my questions would be, does the town of Kiowa Island want to sponsor a public event with 450 people during a pandemic? So the question is whether or not we just have, if they can get the church with nobody there and just do the streaming. And that's, I think, what Jody is thinking at.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, yes, I don't go either to the Gilliard. I'm old, older. But a lot of people do go that I know that are even my age. And so far, they think it's just fine. No, I would never think we should have 450 people. That's practically what we have normally, and we're sitting shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. So it's hard for me to believe that's what they do, but I don't know that. But I would think maybe 200, possibly, if they're spaced out. I've seen some football and basketball games now on TV where they have some audience, and it gives it some extra excitement that they're applauding and yelling, but they're way spaced out. And that's how I see this, just a small little audience. And I would have to talk to Kyle and see what the moving of the equipment, the cameras look pretty small to me. So, because I saw them in the video that Ken Lamb showed last night.
If they were going to do a video streaming, do they have to use the church, or could they use, let's say, the space other places like Seabrook?
Well, I think Seabrook would be worse because the ceiling is low. It's a more confined space for a live audience.
Well, not for live audience, just for showing just for putting together a video. I didn't know if there was another space that could be used that would make it easier for them, if it's easy.
What about the
for them,
conference
fine with
center?
me. What's that?
Well, I think originally David checked for the conference center for that date because that is the date that the symphony needs.
Right.
And it's booked. Correct, David? I mean, that was
At least it
a
was
while-
when we had checked a couple months ago.
quite
Yeah.
a while back that we checked on that because we were thinking of moving them because we gave them extra money. So this would be a little bit bigger concert so that they could do the Fourth Symphony. So I don't see what the difference is in getting the equipment to Holy Spirit or getting it to any other place.
Well, maybe we could change the date. I mean, nothing else is going on. We could find out when the conference center would be available and if it would.
They're
drop-
not available though, Joan.
Oh,
They're not available other dates because they are doing a live season at Gilliard as usual. And then Ken Lamb has a schedule of things and so on. So I don't think that's possible.
So we have a bunch of events scheduled for March. And we need to decide whether to do them. Let's put aside for the moment whether we might do a streamed version of one or more events and just try to focus on whether we're comfortable doing a live event with an in-person audience at this stage in the pandemic.
I'm sorry, but I've been having some computer difficulties and I wasn't able to get to what's left in our March schedule. Could you please enlighten me?
Yeah, let me just run down them. So March 14th was the scheduled date for the CSO. March 19th is the scheduled date for Kenny.
Mhm.
March 21st is Quentin Baxter. March 28th is Young Artists. And that's it for March.
Okay, we can, I think we were sort of the opinion before from the very beginning that we really didn't think that this was during the pandemic, that a dance was going to be a manageable idea. And so I think we want that one to go. Quentin is if we approve his video, is scheduled to go ahead with that streaming, but in my opinion, we need to cancel everything else.
I agree with Judy. I think I just don't want to see the town of Kiowa Island Arts Council on December 3rd during the height of a pandemic approving live events. I just don't think that's a good idea.
I'll agree with you on that one, David.
Same here.
I agree also. Anybody who disagrees and thinks we should proceed with any of these events? I was surprised, Becky, when you said about 400 people, because I thought the state limit was 250.
It is.
Me too. I didn't say that.
It's on the
think
church's
David said
website
that.
in terms of its mass, and that's a really interesting thing about religious institutions. You go on the Holy Spirit and their COVID precautions. There's a lot of precautions, but they mention 450. It's really
There might be different allowances for houses of
exactly,
worship and events.
and that's the key right there.
Well, I think
just looked at it again. I didn't see any difference.
I think the thing is, we would set our audience size completely according to our standards, whatever we research and find out.
Well, the town has an emergency ordinance that the attendance cannot exceed 50% of the occupancy limit or 250 persons or whichever is less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
250.
That's going to be renewed tomorrow.
That's the
don't
way
know
the
what
state one is worded also.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just refers to gatherings.
Mhm.
And of course, you require masks inside, I'm sure. And the musicians wear masks. I've
Most of
seen
them.
them performing with masks. And they put if they have brass instruments in the particular performance, they put them way back behind everybody. That's a big church and big space. So I don't know. I think it would work. I would be willing to be there, but some of you may not. Really, I mean, I understand that completely. And again, I think it would be a good thing to find out if we could possibly at least do a streaming of this. If we're going to stream Quentin, why can't we stream the orchestra?
Right, that's true. But I think probably the better thing to do is if we want to stream is to stream without an audience.
Well, that's of course up to the council, whatever.
Becky, is that okay with the symphony? I mean, would they be willing to set up their cameras on their own at the church if it was available and stream a concert for Kiowa at the church with no audience?
Well, I haven't asked them that question, but I asked it in sort of a roundabout way to Kyle at the house tour time. And he said, sure, I'd be willing to help you with that sort of thing. But we didn't get into any detail, and I didn't want to start talking to them until I got the council's approval to move forward and see if this would work. So postpone our voting on this issue, and I will find out if we can live stream it with them. We need to find out if we can use Holy Spirit. I've seen things live streamed from the Sotilli, from some of the big ballroom spaces downtown and historic houses and so on. But if Holy Spirit would let us do it, we've already got that date with them set aside. So if they agree that it would be okay,
it's going to cause the symphony more expense to get all their streaming equipment out there to Holy Spirit. So they'll have to consider that if we want to request this.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
So
We're already giving them $10,000 extra over. Actually, it's a little more than that, I think, over and above what we were going to give them for the spring concert.
I think what I'd like to do is vote on whether to cancel in-person concerts. And we're going to talk about streaming as a general category a little bit later. And Becky, you're certainly welcome to pursue what kind of streaming event the symphony might be able to do and what they would charge for that, and what venue might be available to do that. But I would like to propose that we cancel the in-person events for March.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
I heard it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we got something done on our agenda.
So I will call Kenny.
Yeah. That just seems like something we would not only be criticized for doing, but probably laughed at for doing.
I think that's correct. And I mean, the dance, especially with Liquid Pleasure, we've had other bands, but especially with Liquid Pleasures, is one of our most popular events. It's reached the point where we almost need security to help us control the crowd.
I think
And,
Right.
security at all our events.
pardon?
I think we need security at all our events.
Right. So
Yeah.
not.
So I can just see the article talking about COVID pleasure. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I think that's a slam dunk that we don't do that one.
yeah.
That's college about the young artists.
What, Beth? What, Jody?
Young artists, I'll notify the college.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda is streaming events, which we've obviously introduced some. We've talked in the working groups about different possibilities, including 2 from Quentin, 1 from Small Glories, in both cases replacing live concerts. We've talked about Fred Moyer. Now we're talking about the CSO. And I think, Jody, you have kind of a general's perspective that maybe be helpful for you to share.
I have a proposal that I'm pretty excited about, and I hope to get you guys excited about it too, if it would work. And it would be a gift from the Arts Council to our community. We would announce the gift during the holiday season, but it would be a package of 4 video concerts, beginning with a holiday concert by Fred Moyer. And this package you could open it over the next few months. It would contain a variety of concerts, holiday, and then the 2 jazz concerts by Quentin, and then the wonderful Roots Americana concert by Small Glories. We have all, I believe, looked at the Fred Moyer events and the Small Glory videos, and they're excellent. Quentin has been incredibly responsive to our concerns about his, and has, just been over backwards to make them really good quality. So I just think it would be a terrific thing to announce. We'd be able to say, happy holidays, we're still here. And this is what we've been doing. We've been planning for 2021-22. We're bringing back the events that we couldn't show you live this year. And we're very excited about the fact that these artists have been, they've been struggling, and they've been making these videos to share with us. I would envision all those being free to our audience. And I don't know where we are with working out the Quentin issues about who they should go to. But certainly with Fred, the holiday video is already in the can. He would personalize it for us, sitting at the piano. Hi, Kiowa, so nice to be back. And I assume Small Glories is already in the can as well.
Not, but they would be discussing, if we decided to proceed, they would give us a couple of options, which would be something pre-recorded with some localized narration, or something possibly live, because they're sort of stuck in Canada and aren't doing any touring. So it's something that they might be able to do just for us. They're pretty flexible. So if we decide to proceed, I will be working with the agent to see what the options were, and then we could decide, via email or Zoom, in terms of what option we'd want to do. So.
I just think it would be a great opportunity to connect with the community and remind them and keep us top of mind. And if we can work in somehow the symphony streaming, and I know Bill has some opportunities with Morant streaming. I don't think that's free necessarily, but these 4, I think, would just make a great package to give as a gift.
Jody, I think a bunch of us, including me, have seen Fred Moyer's some copies of things he's done, and I thought they were very well done. Have you actually seen the Christmas?
Wow, I can't remember. I logged in and looked at what he had sent, and I'm not sure if I did or not. So sorry.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Christmas one, but
if we don't want to do the holiday one, then he will, personalize something for us. And by that, I mean a program that we would choose from among his offerings for later in the year.
Okay.
I think by February or March, he would be ready to offer those. But the
Okay.
holiday, he can offer now.
And in terms of how this gets done, Stephanie, I think you sent out an email the other day, but I guess one possibility is it's just available on YouTube, right?
It depends on how they're pushing it out, right? So if they're providing it to us recorded, then we can do it through Vimeo, and it can be password protected for whoever you want to provide that to. Otherwise, it really does kind of depend on how they're streaming it. They can provide us with if they're doing it live, they can provide us with their stream code and we can run it through our YouTube, or we can just direct them to theirs. I mean, you have options. It just depends on how they're producing it.
So we would tell our patrons, this is where you will find these events and at this.
I would suggest, us somehow not doing a ticket, but, have to sign up, obviously. So we would have whoever is interested, an email list for them and be able to contact them directly.
Yeah, then we might get a better sense of whether people are taking advantage of these things.
That would be useful. I suspect it's going to take a while to build an audience to do this type thing. It's a little it was a little intimidating for us when we first started to do it. So what we need to do is provide very good instructions, and it'll take a little while before people will jump in.
Well, don't we think people are already doing that quite a bit? I know we are.
I honestly don't know. I'm doing it a lot, but I don't know whether other people are.
I think most people are, because there's nothing else to do. But with the symphony, for example, we had trouble because it's on Vimeo, and you had to be instructed to download the Vimeo app or whatever it is. And once we did that, it was perfectly fine and well done. So we really do need to give good instructions to our.
Were you doing that on a tablet, Becky? Were you
We were doing it on, because we tried everything we have, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, everything. And finally, we read their instructions, which were kind of buried. And we didn't think we needed to look at them. But when we finally did it, said, you must download Vimeo. So that's what we did. And then everything worked.
Yeah. And I guess you're going to have to persuade people that for one night they should watch this instead of The Crown.
Instead of The Crown. You could do both.
Really, they're done binge watching The Crown. It's been out for a couple of weeks.
Just to let you know, Jody said something about Brad. Brad is filming the Christmas show, and that if that was, he could send that out, but you'd have to pay for each person that signed up. The town would have to pay $30 for each person that signed up. The people would be free to the home, but if you had 100 people, you'd have to pay the $30 times 100.
It wouldn't be per household, it would be
Per household. Yeah, it could be per household, and it's over a period of 10 days. It can be. This is a whole nother world for me when I try to talk to Brad about how this works. It's like, wow, lucky I turn the TV on and work it that way. But evidently, you could do all this and downloading it, and Stephanie gave me an idea that I guess it's possible to do, but it would mean that Brad would have to get the number of people and the information, and he would take it from there, he said. But it would be $30 per household over a period of 10 days. They could look at it. It could be as many people as you wanted to come in to see it, but it would be $30 per household.
That's a little steep. I can get the San Francisco Symphony for $35.
Well, that's not
And
our
most of the things that I watch online are 10 to 25 are free,
Yeah.
or a number of them are packaged. You can make $100 contribution and you get all these and it's free. So $35 is a bit steep.
But
Yeah,
Judy,
plus we're promoting this as a gift, right?
spending 25,000 or 27 for the Charleston Symphony Orchestra to see it visually.
Okay, so,
But we're not passing that on to our viewers, right?
Oh.
Right, that's just our cost.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
just,
Jody, do you want to pursue the Fred Moyer thing and see what the technical
Yeah.
requirements would be and how we would actually do it?
I've already sent those to Stephanie and
Okay.
I will connect her with our person. If you want me to listen or look at that holiday concert and make a recommendation about that, I will.
Yeah, and then also figuring out exactly how we're going to deliver the product, which I
And
think,
Jody, I'll bring Keely up to speed on that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, thank you.
Judy, are we squared away with Quentin?
No, we are not. The Coltrane group wanted to view his film, whatever, and get the approval. So no, we have not done that. We have not given the approval to what he's done.
And do we know how he would deliver it and whether that
Well,
works
what he
for us?
wanted to do was he wanted to put it up on his website and let people go from there. He wanted to charge $10 for that, for the premiere showing of that. And then after that, 10 days after that, make it available to us for us to put it up on whatever platform we chose and have it available free. So there would be a charge for the premiere event, but they wouldn't later. But now that's something we haven't discussed, that we had discussed people paying for it or not paying for it, and we haven't come to a conclusion on that. So we need to see.
Yeah, I think some of us have opined in emails, but I
Mhm.
guess I think his suggested approach, assuming it all works technically, and Stephanie or Keely could probably tell us, I'm okay with it as a matter of equity, so to speak. And I think, David, you feel that way?
Yeah, I felt that way too, based on the last email that Judy had sent in terms of the possibilities. I think that's fair.
Okay.
So you're agreeable to a premiere show, and then after that, a premiere show with a $10 per device that goes into to connect, and then after that, have it available to people free.
Well, yeah, and I guess the question, going back to Jody's proposal of marketing this as a gift to Kiowa from the town and the Arts Council, is how do we market the free events for Kiowa, which this would be included in, separate from what Quentin is doing to his community of listeners that he wants to market to. So we certainly don't want to prevent that. But on the other hand, we need to have the permission to market the free event for our audience.
All right.
And small glories would be free as well.
But are we still paying the performers
Sure.
the same
Yes.
fee that we were scheduled to pay?
And what fee, you're still paying them the 13,000 for
The
Quentin?
Fred Moyer fee is 2,000 for the video. And I'm trying to remember what was he scheduled, when he was coming, it was, at least 7 or 8, so
I think it was 9,
9.
but
Okay.
that might have included costs and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Small Glories, I think their fee is 4.
Their fee is 4. I think we had figured 6 with all the other stuff, so it would be just 4. We'd just be paying the artists.
Right.
And originally, I was thinking of trying to negotiate that price down, but I think Keely had mentioned, there are, and Becky said this too, they have their costs to the artists, and
Okay.
Judy agrees that they've got to set up the cameras and hire people to edit and hire folks. And so they've got expenses, even though they're not traveling, that they wouldn't have if they weren't doing
Right.
the recording and the streaming. So I
And we
think
may,
the fourth,
yeah,
It's not cheap.
and we may need to still have to pay for lighting for for example, the symphony, if they do theirs. We still may need to provide lighting for that, so the budget would stay the same. But I can't imagine that the symphony would charge us for bringing out their equipment, because this is their staff that they pay anyway. And they're going to be so happy to be able to do this. I cannot imagine that it would be extra cost to them that they would pass on to us anyway.
Are the videographers on that do the work for the symphony? Are they on the symphony staff?
Yeah, they own the cameras. And I saw some of the staff that usually does other things. They've got a fairly good number of people,
Well,
and as you know, and but I think it's the marketing person or something, Mitsumi, how do you Mitsuko was running one of the cameras.
Well, that's one thing that is to me extremely amazing about our Charleston Symphony. They have been through hell, almost disappeared, and coming out of that, there is a real esprit de corps that everybody is willing and able to take whatever they can and put it into the symphony to keep the symphony going. That's a real credit to them as an organization.
And the CSOL just raised like $84,000.
Yay.
And are giving them 75 of that this fall. So yeah, a lot of people are working hard to keep them going. And I would like to see, we've already canceled their $41,000 event. I'd like to see us try to keep their
I'd like to say something.
$7,000 event.
Okay, you were so quick to dismiss the Marantz at $30 per household. If you had 300 households, which would be at least 600 people, which would be a big gathering for us, that would not be that much money. That would be $9,000, okay?
Joan, I understand.
Talking about 20,000 and 15,000, and Marantz, you would not have to worry about getting all the equipment and stuff. They have it all. So I don't know why we so quickly dismiss them.
No, I'm not dismissing them, Joan. What I'm merely doing is conveying what the market price is for online streaming events. That's all.
But we're
It
not,
also seems that it would be easier to just negotiate with him a flat price for us having them, rather than $30 and getting all these people to sign up, and then we pay for them just to
we
have a
probably do
flat
that,
fee.
right, Bill?
I would think so. He was thinking it would be cheaper for us
Right, I think
to
so.
do it $30 and do it that way. But I mean, I'm sure he would be willing to negotiate if we wanted to think about something for Christmas related to his show, because it's evidently, as we talked, it's all on film. It's like looking at a movie. So
that would be this month, Bill. I mean, that's coming up.
Yeah, it would be from any time
Yeah,
between the 19th and the 31st of December. You can tune in once during that time period. This is all
And
new
also-
in terms of.
I think we need something. Yeah.
yeah. I think we've already sort of assembled a significant amount of work for us to do in the streaming
Right.
category. And I think we should push ahead and try to get that done, not to dismiss anything, Joan, but just to try to keep this manageable in terms of what we're doing, something new for us, and trying to figure out the arrangements and work those all out. Maybe the 4 events we've talked about would be sufficient. What does the Bible say? Sufficient problems for the day thereof, or whatever. Anyway, we might have enough work to do.
Can that be 5?
We
I
could
mean,
certainly
don't
go,
we
I mean,
do
a few of
something?
us, I mean, Bill could go on the IKEA list and just self-market that this is available at $30, just as a, you know, people will be interested in it, because, you know, we don't want to compete with Marantz's marketing of their event
Right.
by doing something else.
Can you remind me whether we canceled a Marantz event either in 2019-20 or 2021?
Did we cancel, did we not work out a Marantz event for this December, because the only date that they were available was the 21st? And we thought that was too close to Christmas. That's what my memory is. Is that correct?
In
Yes.
the consideration, not in the actual canceling of the event. The
Yes,
event that
that's right.
Yeah, we never canceled.
was burning
No,
the-
we didn't cancel. We just never put them on the books because it didn't work.
Correct.
But did we cancel a Marantz event that was on the books?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think
No.
so.
I don't think so for this year, but I do know that we're planning so far to have them next year. The Sondheim group is planning to propose them for next year.
Yeah, this was something he just came up with in terms of he spoke about the fact that they're going to film this, and if anybody wanted to see it, this would be one way to do it. So he's doing it for his audience of people that would want to, from Charleston or wherever, want to look at the Christmas show. That was one way he would take care of doing it. So he offered that if we were interested in doing it for the town of Kiowa Island or Seabrook, we could do it this way. So that was just another approach that he took to see if it would be worthwhile, because it's certainly not going to, it's not going to help him a lot financially, because if we have 1 or 2 people that are interested, that's like $60 for a show that was, we had originally planned for like 24,000 something. So
Yeah, right.
But if he's doing it anyway,
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's already on his website.
what would be the harm in our using IKEA and the other listserv to market that? Is that appropriate? Or not?
Well, we haven't done that in the past
No.
because we've only done our events. If we open up putting other organizations or other people's events on our website, I don't know what we're getting into. I'd love to have it publicized so that more people could get it, but maybe, let's talk about it. Maybe the better way would be, instead of the Arts Council publicizing it, individuals publicizing it.
That's what I meant, Judy, when I said putting it on IKEA, that Bill and folks who are interested to say, this is available, you know, here's the
that's an
website.
interesting idea. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, David. Yeah. It would save, I think it would save Stephanie having to do more work on figuring this out.
No.
You could go directly through, they could go directly through Marantz
Yeah.
if people just knew about it.
The other thing you could do is just to keep the Arts Council, communicating with our patrons is, we did this at the start of COVID, and just like a weekly update of what they could tune into online and, things that were going on around the city. I mean, I could see it. I wouldn't see any problem with us kind of putting together this is what's going on for the holidays, in the arts world, and here are the links to join.
Great idea, Stephanie, because I mean, you can link to the Post Courier, Moira's column that she does about the arts events coming up. Just supply those links. That's a great idea.
That's good. Thank you, Steph.
Okay. I think next item, let's do the chair and co-chair thing first before we get to our proposal review. So 2 years ago, when we changed our governance, part of the reason for it was a concern that we wouldn't find town councilors who were willing to do the chairman job and what went with it. And so under our new governance, the chair and co-chair come from the membership of the council, and they get elected once a year for a one-year term. So I've done it now
I'm
for
sorry, this was for life.
Yes,
life, yes.
That was my
For
understanding.
life.
yeah, that's what we did.
You see, that we got
Right.
a total agreement.
We all are still subject to the 13th Amendment. Um, So I've done it for 2 years now, and I have to say, I mean, it's an honor to do it. I think the work of the council is important. I think the membership of the council is really extraordinary in terms of the talent and the dedication and the collegiality of the group. And we have this truly extraordinary staff that
Mhm.
makes everything possible. I have spent a lot more time on the Arts Council than I ever expected I would. And part of that is my own fault for coming up with a lot of dumb ideas to change things and then having to work through them all. And I also think it's probably good for the chair job to rotate so that it doesn't become, the council doesn't become kind of a fiefdom of an individual, which I sense might have happened in the past. So for those reasons, I asked David, I said, well, maybe you would like to be the chair. And David responded, well, I would appreciate it if you would continue or
Mhm.
at least for next year.
I also got
And,
Stephanie to double the salary of the chair, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do we get raises too?
Yeah.
Right on top of that.
Yours is also doubled. So I said, okay, I would do it for another year. I think probably next year would be good to have somebody else do it. But anyway, I guess, do I have a motion to elect myself as chair and David as vice chair for the coming year?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? David, are you opposed? Are you okay?
Yeah, I was non-committal.
Okay.
I
You're
abstained.
appreciative. You're appreciative. All right. Well, we'll do another year, and I do thank you all for being such a great group. Even though it's a lot of time and work, I feel it's very worthwhile, and I feel like everyone is so cooperative that what could be just not worth the trouble is very much worth the trouble. Okay. Now we move on to the season proposal review. I think,
Mary,
yes, Becky?
I don't mean to be a pest about this, but I feel like we didn't really resolve what to do about the symphony. Maybe I misunderstood.
Check
But,
it out.
About the streaming or about the live concert?
well, I understand we decided no live concert.
Yes.
But if we do a package, we talked about a package. If the symphony does a streaming, wouldn't the package need to include that also?
I think it would be worthwhile for you to talk to them about
Mhm.
what they would do, how they would do it, what it would cost, and where they would do it, all those things. And if we have something that we can readily distribute to our patrons, then I think we would as a group, decide whether to include that in Jody's Christmas basket.
Well, I don't know what the timing was on the Christmas basket, but I can talk to the symphony today or tomorrow.
And Becky, I don't think there's going to be a problem with the church because we have that date and we have the site. I think the only problem would have been having people at the church for an event that's not a mass given COVID. I have a feeling they're not going to object since we've at that because we have a 4 o'clock time on that date that's reserved, and I never canceled it. So as far as I know, we still have that, but I'll double check. They didn't get back to me because I was talking about having people in the church on that date. But now that that's settled, I can go back to the church and say, we're not doing that. Can we do this?
Okay, would you do that? And maybe we could do it at a different time.
That's one thing. This filming to get a product ready, it can take more time than an actual live performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, anyway, David,
it's
I'll
on
work
us.
with you on it.
Yeah, because it's on a Sunday and they don't get out of there, even with a smaller crowd till
Right.
Yeah.
12, 1 o'clock. So I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of extra time to set up. However, they could go probably a little longer.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It gets dark there. That's the lighting issue. But Jody, when do you need to get your package announced?
It's not my package. It was a proposal to the group. And I think each of us, I've got a piece of the Fred Moyer, David has a piece, and Judy has the Quentin thing. So I think we now just work through staff, right? If we want to do it.
Well, I'm curious if we want to keep those, they're all, you're talking December, January, February, if those are the Christmas basket, and then we leave the symphony till later because we want something more to promote. Like, here's our spring basket.
Yeah.
Here's your Easter basket or something.
That's fine. That's fine.
So we're not giving out everything all at once. Just a suggestion, since we might not have the symphony ready.
An
Yeah.
Easter basket.
An Easter basket.
You're getting in the spirit, Keely.
All
Or
right.
you can say Christmas stocking, an Easter basket.
David and Becky, I have a question.
That's fine. I didn't understand. I was kind of thinking it was spanning the whole spring season, winter, spring season, but whatever.
I think it is, yes.
David, when you call the church, you might want to ask about their internet and Wi-Fi or connection and all of that. If I recall, they have pretty poor Wi-Fi, and maybe they could hardwire in, but I'm sure that there needs to be some sort of technical conversation between the symphony and the church to make sure that's even a possibility, because you need pretty good bandwidth to push something live stream out. We know because we've run into a bazillion problems here at Town Hall, and we have all the actual, we had to install fiber lines to get it to work properly. So it's more than meets the eye.
Well, that's the question I had. And Becky, that's something you need to check with the symphony about, is that, do they want to stream live or do they want to pre-record it
Right.
at the church for playback at a time where Kiowa residents can watch it? And those are completely, because the expense of live stream live is, as Stephanie said, is a whole lot more than trying to record it, doing some editing afterwards and preparing it for us.
Okay, well, I will get with that immediately, and I'll keep you in the loop, David, and then we'll present it back to the council as soon as possible.
Great.
Barry, I have a question.
Sure.
What happens to all the money we're not spending this year?
Well, I get to keep it.
That's okay?
It goes back into the budget, Joan.
Okay, we don't get to carry any of it over?
No, never have.
Be nice if we did, but we don't.
What we've got to hope for is the town council is friendly enough and to give us what we want for next year.
We had a good election this past week, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we got people elected that normally are very favorable toward the council. But I was wondering if we know if Dan Prickett, now that he's reelected, is going to stay with our, as our liaison. Do we know
So
that yet?
traditionally, the mayor will go around and meet with each council member and
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
So Dan may decide, yeah, I'd like to stay on, or he may have a conversation, but that's typically what the mayor and town administrator
Yeah.
go through those motions.
But he seems happy doing it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can't imagine that he
We're
wouldn't,
good
but
friends.
Yeah.
I think he'll be with us.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
good.
So I wanted to know whether he was going to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Good.
turning to our proposals. You all got a lot of paperwork, and thank you, Keely, for getting all that together and taking endless comments and getting it out. So I guess our general posture here is hopefully people had a chance to look at the proposals from the working groups other than their own, and if there's anything that they find particularly alarming, we could talk about that. We have to vote on the cultural events applications. That's a requirement, and we have in the past allowed applicants to come and advocate for themselves if they wanted. So that's not going to be available for them today. So what we're going to do, I think people should talk about all these things, but we won't actually vote until our January meeting. And then we'll vote on all of the, I think the plan would be to vote on basically all the proposals as a batch and vote on them.
Well, one thing I think we ought to remind ourselves is that our Arts Council discussions about acts and what we're going to do and what's not being done and all that needs to stay within the Arts Council, and we don't need to spread information around. I've already gotten some emails from people asking if we're going to do such and such, or are we going to do this or that, and I don't think we ought to be speaking to that until we get our whole schedule together.
I think that's a good point.
I have a question. How are the monies allotted? I mean, for the different committees?
So what we did originally was look at what had been spent by the genres or in the genres in recent years. And that was the basis for the targets that we gave each working group. And
That's
if
one of the things that with this new system, in the past, it was all, we looked at everything there was and everything was sort of a give and take. You know, there were certain things, yeah, I really like that or don't like that or so much. And it was when you're put into a corner where you only have $15,000 to spend on something and what you want costs a lot more money, it's out the door already. I just don't like the way that's done, because most in the past it's been, well, I'll give a little bit here and you give a little bit here so that we can get, some of the favored programs.
Yeah.
And
Well, this is your time for give and take. And I realized, for example, with Kringle, the total amount you were given would be
15.
swallowed up by Marantz, which, is fine. And
No, you couldn't have Marantz with our budget.
Yeah. Well, all of us, I think, had frustration in all of our groups I know the Mozart group, we had some things that we would like to have presented that were new. And we couldn't do it because we really felt a responsibility to present the ones that we've had to cancel. So we ended up not doing several things. And that's the way it was too with Coltrane. And we can't do all that we want to do.
Yeah.
I think in light of what Joan said, I still think there needs to be some give and take by the entire Arts Council at a
Right.
meeting after the recommendations. Because even Jody reminded me that I didn't look at the Young Arts Council, the Young Arts stuff from College of Charleston, didn't realize that they were still going to possibly propose a theater thing for next year because we canceled it for this year. For some reason, I had the impression it was going to be a music thing, but I didn't look carefully at the music, at the whoever was the Mozart group to see if it was under there. So that's something that we should have probably added to our group. So in a way, you know, there was a question of whether or not we were just going to do the stuff we canceled this year or support some of the local groups. But right now, if Kringle does Marantz and we do Marantz, that's 2 Marantzes in 1 year.
Yeah.
I would be opposed to that,
I can
for example.
Yeah.
See,
But-
but I
but
wouldn't have known that until those final
We're
decisions
being
would be.
held back from even presenting it because we were given, you know, a budget that's, you know, $10,000 less than we would.
Well, one of the things that I found frustrating about the process is that I don't know what's going on in other groups.
Right, yeah.
And that's a little bit frustrating to me. Now, the two groups that I was in and that met, there was very good communication. But outside of that, I know nothing. So it's in the past, what we've had is input from everybody,
Right.
and that's good and that's bad because you know there have been some unpleasant times, especially when I first came to the Arts Council, and this is before everybody, only person who was on the Arts Council when I came on was, I think, Becky and Bill. The rest of you weren't. But I left my first Arts Council planning meeting and I called Charlie and I said, I quit. I am not going through this. I don't like people treating each other this way. And that's a disadvantage of a whole group getting in together. And that's
But don't you think that's changed, Judy? In the last few years, it hasn't been like that.
I think it has changed, but frankly, there were several years there where it was vicious as far as I'm concerned. Maybe the rest of you didn't feel that way. And I don't get it. I don't want to get involved in anything like that, but I didn't know what was going on, period.
So
Until we
Judy,
got this.
yeah, so now you have the whole list and
Yep.
people can say, I think, for example, that one Christmas event is not enough, or I
Yeah.
think 3 Marantz events is not enough. And for the next few weeks, we can talk about these things and see if we want to change what we're proposing.
So what you're saying, David, is that the work we've done in our groups is subject to the approval of the whole Arts Council.
Yeah, and it's actually required in terms of the cultural events because they have to be.
Yeah, but cultural events is different than Arts Council. I
Right, but
understand that, but I'm just trying to understand what the expectation is.
yeah, I see them as recommendations, Judy. And I even said to Gary, I said, I felt a little strange that, for instance, if I had asked you if you were still going to possibly propose Liquid Pleasure, well, you didn't really get a chance to advocate for a dance concert at the Sondheim group, and we considered it. And I felt that you should have the chance to advocate for that before we necessarily made final recommendations. So that's what I think the next month or two is for, is to sort of negotiate and do what Joan was saying about doing some giving and taking. How we see the whole season.
Right. And we can't lose track of what our audience wants. Don't forget, it may not be what you want. but
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, the opportunity to do that, and hopefully done without viciousness and done just in the collegial manner that we all prefer. Say, gee, I think such and such an act would really be great. I'm sorry we didn't consider it. Could X working group think about whether they might entertain that act?
Well, I can start off by saying, I think that a dance, any dance practically, is one of our favorite events for our audience. And I think if we don't include a dance, people are going to be questioning us. I get questions. I get phone calls and emails every August or September or something before our calendar comes out. When's the dance?
this is the dance, yeah.
What that's important to people. I did propose to send a proposal to the Sondheim Group for Liquid Pleasure. I need, in order for us to get the price that we're getting, I need to be the contact with Kenny. But frankly, I would love for somebody to take over everything else and let just me interact with Kenny and somebody else take over the introductions and all of that stuff. I'm just trying to, or if you want a different price, you can go to Kenny. But we really need to decide if we want to dance.
I think it's probably one of the most popular things. It's one of the things, only things that a lot of people go to.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. And always complain that the Seabrook people got all the tickets.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
So-
this in a way is one of the problems with this segmenting of everything, because in our Mozart group, Sondheim group, I think, we had to look at the cultural events and decide which ones to have. And we voted, and unfortunately, Liquid Pleasure got left out of our list because it got the fewest votes of those 5 things we were voting on.
Well, then it means
And so had it been in the big pile of all the cultural events, instead of segmented like that, I think it would have, there would have been a place for it. So that's a little bit of a problem with.
Well, actually, when it comes to Liquid Pleasure, it is a cultural event. It has always been a cultural. It's never been a cultural event. It's always been an arts council event.
Well, anyway, however it was that Jody can, whichever group it was, I'm in 2 groups, so I'm getting them mixed up.
Sondheim.
Sondheim, and it was ranked the lowest, which it just
Okay.
happened to be the preferences of the
Of that
5
group.
people that make up that group.
That's right.
I mean, but Judy's exactly right. If it might have a different, and I agree. I rated it more highly than the other members of my group, but that's just me.
But it really was because we had to vote, stay within a budget, and compare it to certain other things. And had it been in a bigger pool, we would have probably decided differently.
I just
So-
also wanted to point out that I thought that all the groups took the position that one of the givens was the events that had to be canceled. And that's how the Mozart group started, with these are on our list because they had to be canceled. I saw that didn't always happen in other groups. For instance, with Liquid Pleasure, with The Magician. I don't think I saw that on our list. So I'm wondering about whether we should have all picked up those events or not. I thought that we had been asked to.
Mhm.
I don't know that that was a rule, but I think that is what was generally done. And that also has the virtue of bringing in the preferences of the whole group, because the ones that were approved by the whole group, last March.
So I think that it's always
It's
difficult to
different.
institute a new process, always, because you can't anticipate everything and you learn a lot of lessons from doing it. But I think the two things that were tough, that we did this in the pandemic year when we had all the other things hanging on. So we couldn't just look at events, afresh like we ordinarily would. The second thing that made it difficult was having cultural and arts council events in one
Yes,
fiscal bucket. It was very hard for us to not know what all the cultural events were as we looked at,
Right.
for instance, classical and choral events. So those, in addition to a new process, just made it more difficult.
on the other hand, you might think that our job was easier this year because we started with the things we'd already approved. Now, with Mozart, we started with that and we finished with that. That was it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
but that's if we start afresh with without a slate of carryovers that we canceled, that could be even more difficult.
Oh, it'll be a different kind of difficulty.
It would be different.
The other point that Jody has made about the process is that it's been difficult for the coordinators to
Ah,
sue people for meetings.
Yes.
And it might be better to start off with kind of a schedule of meetings so that the coordinators don't have to keep sending out emails to try to get people's attention to.
And
get-
and making phone calls and everything.
Yes, that's another thing that could be improved. Well, so I think for Sondheim, I think there's been a message articulated by several people that they would really like Sondheim to think some more about Liquid Pleasure and whether there might be room for them.
well, we haven't put them on the scale with all the other programs. That's the problem when.
Yeah, it has really.
Well, you have all the other programs in front of you. So I think in a way, by advocating for them, you're putting them on the scale and you're saying, we think Liquid Pleasure outweighs some of the other stuff.
But then you've got to decide what it does outright.
Well, that will be for the Sondheim group to decide if they would switch it with something, or if they would just add it, or how they want to go about that.
Well, that's the problem with keeping it within the Sondheim budget. It was too much for the things that were within that group. And so that's the problem. If we put it in the schedule here with the whole group, we've got to pull something else out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if we're simply having the same program for next year as we have canceled for this year, it really should fit, right? I mean, we have the same amount of money if we keep all the same things.
No, the problem was that the cancel thing spanned 2019, 2020, and 2021. It
Yeah.
was more than one season.
Oh, yeah, I see. That's true.
Okay, could we turn to Kringle and
Do I
Go
read
ahead.
this correctly? Is that we're planning that this is we've got 2 Marantz programs proposed?
No, we had, he proposed three different events. And the one at Christmas time, which was a big expensive show,
Mm-hmm.
that's been turned into possibly a video. And I think we've solved that issue nicely with Stephanie's suggestion.
No, that's not correct. That's for next, they proposed something for next year. You're talking about this December. He's proposed a cultural event for December 2021. So that's why we considered it. It has nothing to do with the streaming event.
Okay.
And that's the one you turn to Kringle.
Yes.
Kringle.
And there's also one.
We had, the Burning River Brass schedule for this coming. and that was canceled. And so that's why they are turned over to the next year. Okay. I think they were last here and they were here a year ago, or weren't they?
I think from 2017 or 16.
Or 18 or
It
whatever.
was, yeah, that's right. It was when I had back surgery. I remember.
Yes, 17, 18, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Kringle's proposing to bring them back next year along with the Marantz thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Well,
there's
there's not enough money for both.
no,
Yeah.
Well, we may have to push the money around.
It's difficult to put us in a box and not see the whole picture. When we all get together, we can say, well, we can eliminate one of those because we don't have enough money or whatever, but
well, I think
We're also going to fine tune the budget some because, for one thing, we have not included any ticket revenue in this budget.
Right.
So over the next few weeks, as we figure out dates and figure out venues, we'll also be able to figure out anticipated ticket revenue and see whether we, in fact, are short of money or not.
but do I see, I'm having trouble finding things. Did I see that Sondheim has a Marantz proposal as well? Are there two Marantz proposals?
Yes.
Three Marantz proposals.
Three? I'm lost.
So Sondheim has a Gershwin Marantz proposal.
Right.
And then there's the Christmas one, which is in Kringle. And then there's a Broadway and Beyond one, which is also in Sondheim.
But
But I
not,
think we eliminated that one, didn't
We
we?
did not recommend that. That's
Right.
correct.
Okay.
We
only
just
recommended
didn't
one.
have the money.
Okay, so there's two, one in Kringle and one in Sondheim, correct?
Proposed, yes.
Well, no, there are three proposed and we only have money for one, if I understand correctly.
We had three applied for.
Kringle doesn't have enough money for the Burning River, which was canceled, and Marantz, correct?
no.
No, or yes?
It sounds like we just need to decide if we want a Christmas Marantz or a regular Marantz.
I think
Or a big
so.
Broadway Marantz.
So then what do you do with Burning River? Have two Christmas events?
That's up to you.
Well, it's the same. Marantz was here in 2016 for Christmas, yeah. So that would be 5 years ago, yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, when we all get together, that's why you have to decide, but
Right.
don't take it away from the individual departments. And, if that's our favorite, and then you say, well, we've already picked that, well, we never even got up to bat,
Well, you're up to bat and you've submitted your proposals and people will look at them all over the next few weeks and
Is there any kind of consensus for not having three Marantz events? Can we say
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Next. Is there a consensus for not having two
We
I
Marantz
can,
events?
I can make the case for having one Marantz event.
Okay, so is that something, if there's a consensus on that, then it's either Kringle or Sondheim. It's either the Christmas or the Gershwin.
Well, then you'll have to vote on it when it comes, time for the group.
yes.
Yeah. And how, and what, I'm back to my buddy Kenny. What about Liquid Pleasure? Where's that coming from? Or is it, or what?
Right, because it needs to be in there. If not Liquid Pleasure, some other dance band, yeah.
Right, I agree. There are other good dance bands out there. We just got a good relationship with Kenny and our audience really likes him.
Right.
Well,
We
Sondheim, I
have
think.
to
is
think
gonna
about
think
our
about-
audience, not just ourselves.
Yes. So David,
But at any rate, if we're going to invite back the people that we cancel, it's Liquid Pleasure. That's one of them.
yes.
Right. But my friends on the Sondheim group all voted Marantz ahead of Liquid Pleasure.
That's right.
So I'd be happy to resume our group sometime next week and see where we all are, given the information we have now. Would that be a good
That'd be
idea,
good.
I
Gary?
think this is something we all need to be not just group deciding which Marantz it's going to be. I think it's something, if you only want one, I think we all have to be part of this, not just a group.
Which one do you want, Joan?
Which one do I want?
Yeah.
To me, their Christmas program is one of the finest entertainment that Charleston has. Yeah.
And you think the dance too? Right,
And
Joan,
you-
you want the dance too?
So, but
David's group voted a little differently from the way Mozart did. David put everything down and had us rank them.
Yeah.
With Mozart, we started with what we believed were the givens and went from there. And then we
Yeah.
had no more money to look at new proposals.
Right.
But-
So that's a little bit of different.
But when it's decompartmentalized and we're given $15,000, I mean, Marantz is totally out of the question, all right? So, I mean,
No.
these are things that don't work well when we're put into little groups. Because everything is give and take.
Well, do we have to have Burning Brass? I mean, can we have Marantz instead?
Well,
Why are we choosing Burning Brass?
Only because.
Because we canceled them this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And we're trying to be consistent.
Yeah, okay.
we don't have to be
You don't
consistent.
have to be consistent.
No,
Have to be consistent.
so,
Okay,
And I think part of the conflict was we also wanted to support local people, which is why,
Exactly.
so,
yeah. And,
By
and,
the way, I love that word you just used, resume. That's fabulous. Did you just make that up?
can we look at the Coltrane list?
okay, look at the Coltrane list.
I think the thing we really struggled with here was, in the end, whether to have Charlton Singleton or Bria Schoenberg.
Yes, and
And,
it was not easy at all. They're both fabulous artists. That's a given. We've had Bria twice before, and you guys remember, she's wonderful. We've had Charlton in smaller roles. He was with the gospel choir one time. He was way back, I think, at the first year I was on the Arts Council. We had the College of Charleston jazz faculty, and he came with that. And he's had
It
little.
was with the Symphony Spring Concert.
That's right. But he's never brought a Charlton Singleton group out here.
Correct.
And I pushed pretty hard for Bria, both because I think she's wonderful, but also because I feel like, at least in recent years, we have not had adequate representation from female artists. And I think within the Coltrane group, it was a question of, well, yeah, that's a good point. But for a majority of people in the group, it was more important to support local artists.
Correct.
We've got a problem, period, when it comes to trying to use women artists in the performing arts field. Unless you're talking about vocalists, if you take vocalists out and don't count that, the vast majority of the performing artists are male. And if you want to have females, you're awfully often ending up with female vocalists. I had a female vocalist that I wanted to propose, but I'm concerned about the aerosols and the studies that keep coming out about that. So I elected not to propose a female vocalist, just dropped it, period. But at any rate, the majority of the Coltrane group came down on the side of Charlton Singleton.
And just to add in as a concept,
Be local.
yeah, conceptually, we took as givens what had been canceled before, and we had money for a new proposal, and we voted. So it was pretty simple on the cultural vote.
Um, So cash is essentially proposing people that we had approved last year and then had to cancel.
Mhm.
So if we can stream Small Glories, that will fall out of there, correct? And we'll have another $6,000 in that category? Okay.
Yes,
I was going to suggest that, yeah.
that's how I look at it anyway.
Mhm.
So the other sheets were really just the complete list of the cultural event applications and the Arts Council proposals. I don't really see a need to go through them all. But I think as people think about what they would like different, review all the materials and think about if you're pushing something new, what it costs and what might be eliminated to free up the funds.
Do we, David, are we going to vote on the cultural events today, or are we going to wait till the January meeting?
We're going to wait to the January meeting.
So you don't want to talk about Mozart?
I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, the point I wanted to make is that somebody was saying earlier, I think, Joan, your point about not getting to discuss everything. What we have in these sheets here is what the groups recommended. We don't have, unless we talk about it, what was proposed but not recommended.
Mhm.
So in the Mozart group, there were new proposals.
Right, good,
And we did vote on those, but we could not recommend any of them.
right.
That's what's sort of missing from everybody knowing everything. And I'm assuming that those will show up next year, but you might just want to have something that lists what we did propose in the groups, but couldn't select because of budgetary restraints.
Okay. And we also had the Bach Society one.
Correct. And we had 3 cultural events in Mozart, the symphony concert that goes with the tour of homes and the piccolo preview. So we picked both of those up. The Bach Society cost was $15,000. I think we acknowledged that although was a very attractive program that they presented, that again, we didn't have the money. If there was money from some other cultural bucket there, if somebody else didn't use theirs, that we would like to have that reconsidered.
And we also had a fair amount of chamber music already. Wasn't that
Yeah.
part of the discussion?
Yeah, we had, about Mozart, we had 2 chamber music proposals that we did not take.
One thing I think some of you may have noticed, but we don't have much in the way of choral music. In part, that's because of the aerosol concern. And also, Van had suggested a couple of groups, but I think, as it turns out, neither of them are scheduling performances right now. So we didn't go further.
That's not quite true.
Okay.
I couldn't meet the deadline and get something definite from them.
Okay.
I have since, but I've already told them they missed the deadline. So,
Okay.
So they've moved on.
Okay.
And one of our Mozart new proposals, and one that did garner the most votes from the new proposals, was a vocal recital with 3 singers. So,
Well, can the deadline be extended? We're not meeting until another month?
Well, it sort of requires us to loop back to the
Uh-huh.
middle of the process to talk about that. Van, would you like us to, would you like to pursue that with them and have us consider it?
Well, at the time you told me that wasn't possible, so I've already communicated with them and well, maybe down the road we'll look at them again. I did have one other Coltrane proposal, but it was just after the deadline as well, so I didn't submit it. So I think we don't need to circle back. I mean, it was painful enough to do what we did. So circling back, I don't think is
We're not done yet.
what we want to do. I know we're not done yet. So that's
Th-
like starting over, and I don't think that's what you want.
this-
So
This was one of the problems with the pandemic year too, because I put placeholders in for Pure. I put a placeholder in for Liquid Pleasure in case someone wanted to propose it. But I didn't get real proposals from these. But because they were canceled, we figured it would cost about what it would cost last time, and the dates would be about the same. But I have to say that Van was expecting full proposals. That Judy, if you want to propose Liquid Pleasure and we want to consider it, we'll need dates and prices.
But I sent you a cost sheet.
Yeah.
I sent you
A cost sheet, but not a proposal.
Yeah, I think it would be good to open it up when we
Two
meet in
sheets.
January.
Okay.
To have,
And same with because we'll need those dates for the next meeting.
Okay. I'll get that to you. I'm sorry, but I assumed that most of the information you needed would be on the cost sheet with all the costs and everything. And
And if the costs are the same, that's great. But also the date would be important as we start scheduling.
The date has always had to be with Liquid Pleasure until this time, a Friday and Saturday, a Friday in January or February, a Friday.
Then that's what we'll need for next
Okay,
meeting.
I'll send the proposal sheet to you. I'm sorry, I thought you had all the information you needed.
That's okay. No, it was okay to put placeholders, but I feel bad that Van didn't have all that information, and yet we made recommendations with not as much information in some ways.
Well, in fact, you got some information about Pure as well. It may not have been official, but Sharon Gracie had responded. She mentioned several plays. She said she could do it for the same amount and that the month of October is good. So
I
if
think
you want
Ben
me to
would
put
have
that-
a second go and be able to recommend these singing groups, because I think it should be part of our program.
What's that?
Do you want Van to put a proposal in for a singing group?
Well, one of the problems, Joan, is that most singing groups have disbanded because
Well, Van and some that haven't, obviously.
because of the problems with the aerosol. There have been singing groups have been super spreaders of COVID.
just to mention that with the Mozart proposals, Conrad Tao, April, not sure the date, is still provisional in terms of cancellation. If we can hold that event, then we would have an extra 14,000. And Van, that might be something that if you wanted to go ahead and look at that group that we could consider.
Well, Judy's point was that singing groups are not functioning. And
Yeah.
so they really couldn't commit anything, certainly by the deadline that we had. So, and I can go back and see where they are with that, but they're in the same situation that on the other side as a performer, they're trying to schedule things that they were bumped out of this last year. They're trying to keep those commitments for next year. That's what we're doing. We're trying to bring people back. Well, they're trying to be a part of that as well on the other end to fulfill some of the obligations they missed this year. So that's part of their hesitation to give me something definite. And so that passed, and I don't know where we are with that at this time. I had one other vocal group, but it was a jazz vocal group. So
Gary, I had a question for the Kringle group. What was the date for the Marantz Christmas concert? Because that seemed awfully near Christmas itself.
21st.
Yeah, and I just had a question. Those of you who've been on the Arts Council a long time, I seem to recall that we didn't want to schedule things that close to the 25th.
Right.
And sort of the 18th was as late as we pushed things.
Yes.
Yeah. So is that an issue? I guess I'm wondering if that's an issue, that date.
Yes.
I don't think it personally would be an issue. I think you would fill the place regardless.
It's a Tuesday also. So I think last year, the 21st might have been like a Friday, and we were worried that everybody would be gone.
Well, the 21st is Tuesday, and that's Christmas week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Last time we had them here at the Christmas show, it must have been around the same date, the 21st, because that's what usually I could find out for sure, but that's usually about when they have a free time to move everything from downtown Charleston to Kiowa, and certainly it didn't affect the audience at that time.
I don't remember what date it was.
But maybe Stephanie has that information when the last time Marantz were here and what their dates were.
We can certainly look it up.
I have to look it up.
It was in I can't remember the date.
July. Are you talking about 1920 season?
Well, last time, I forgot when the last time we had them.
1920.
That's
Would have been before that.
1920?
2019 to 2020. Is that what you're talking about? Is that the one you're talking about?
It would have been before that because it's 20.
2018 to 2019. That was July. And
I think it's been a while since we've had their Christmas program.
The Christmas program we haven't been successful in having for several years.
yeah, no.
Brought that up because I think last year or the year before, Van, we had something that we thought would be in December, but we all decided it was way too late to have the concert, and it was the 20th or something like the 19th.
And it was Marantz, wasn't it?
The last time you had the Marantz Christmas special was 2016, 2017.
And what was the date? Do you have that?
Tuesday, December the 13th, 2016.
Yeah, that's usually earlier.
Yeah, I think if I remember, the Charleston Music Hall had cut down on the dates that they were willing to let the Marantz have it. You know, it used to be that Charleston Music Hall didn't have a lot of productions, but pre-pandemic they had a lot of productions, and they would not give Brad and Jennifer dates except right around Christmas. And that was a problem for us. And that was a problem for them because they couldn't do their Christmas show spread apart, because they bring in a lot of artists and dancers for that show, and they couldn't bring them in, send them home, and bring them back again.
I think it would be very successful on the 21st. It
Okay.
would be something people anticipated, that they invited their family to be here for. And I could almost guarantee you would fill the place.
Okay. So I think that's enough review of the proposals. I would encourage everybody to make comments either to the working groups in question or to the group as a whole about things they felt need to be added or subtracted, or strong views they have about any of the things we've discussed. And and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody, for your time and patience, lack of viciousness.
Yes.
All been very appealing.
So, point of information. In January, will we be looking at dates for these various things? I just wondered that because the agent for Ben Beelman has told me what months he would be available for the next year.
Mhm.
And I guess I told him January, we'd probably start knowing specific dates that would work for us. Is that right?
Yeah, I think David is going to need dates in order to talk to venues, and until we have those discussions, we won't know what's available and what kind of ticket revenue we might be expecting and so on. So I think everybody who has an event and has not indicated clearly what the dates would be should go back and try to figure that out, talk to the agent or whatever, and then forward that information to David.
Yeah, if it's flexible, that's fine. So if Liquid
because-
Pleasure is available this Friday or that Friday, that'd be great because it gives us more flexibility to avoid conflict.
Well, because right now I know 2 months that this bill is available, but that could change when they start scheduling their things. I don't know when that would be, but right now I just know the months that he's available.
Well,
I think a lot of people have availability now.
Yeah.
Okay, Keely, did we get any correspondence? Okay. Any committee members like to report on anything? Okay. I have no further comments beyond what I've already said. I don't believe we've gotten any public comments on anything. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second of that motion?
Nobody wants to.
You want to keep going, huh?
I'm second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.